Kremlin considers air truce in war as concession to Trump. Ukraine and US plan to launch 3 mineral extraction projects, and Trump preparing new sanctions against Russia's shadow fleet. The latest news next. Bloomberg has reported that the Kremlin is considering several potential concessions to US President Donald Trump related to his efforts to end Russia's war against Ukraine, reported by Bloomberg. Bloomberg has found that the Russian authorities view potential concessions to Trump on a peace settlement as an attempt to avert the threat of secondary US sanctions.
A pause on airstrikes involving drones and missiles as a de-escalation gesture may be one potential proposal, provided that Ukraine also signed up.
Bloomberg sources believe that visit of Steve Witkoff, Trump's special envoy for the Middle East, to Moscow offers a late opportunity for agreement with Trump, even if expectations for success are low. They also added that Kremlin dictator Vladimir Putin's goals in the war against Ukraine have not changed, and Russia is still unwilling to agree to a full ceasefire. US President Donald Trump's administration is considering imposing new economic sanctions on Russia's shadow fleet of oil tankers if Kremlin dictator Vladimir Putin does not agree to a ceasefire in August by the 8th of August, reported by Financial Times, citing several well-informed sources within the White House. The sources reported that Trump's administration is weighing up further sanctions against Russia's so-called shadow fleet, a group of aging tankers used by the Kremlin to transport oil in defiance of Western sanctions. These measures could become the first example of fresh US sanctions against Moscow following Trump's return to the White House. The Financial Times said the new sanctions are being seen as the first step in a strategy to ramp up pressure on the Kremlin. Trump, who had previously held off from taking a hard line, has now issued an ultimatum to Putin: either agree to a peace deal by Friday or face harsh sanctions.
Under the terms of the sanctions regime, Western-linked companies are prohibited from buying seaborne oil priced above a G7 price cap, fixed at $60 a barrel for crude. The shadow fleet has allowed Russia to ship oil above the cap, mainly to China and India. In early 2024, Biden administration officials were surprised to realize that listing individual ships, rather than their owners or managers, proved to be effective, with buyers of Russian oil reluctant to deal with vessels that had been named. The EU and UK took up the practice as a result.
The Kremlin has ignored several deadlines set by Trump to reach a ceasefire and has significantly ramped up attacks on Ukraine in recent weeks. Trump is said to be increasingly frustrated with Putin's position. Sources within the administration said Moscow will pay a heavy price if it does not come to the negotiating table.
It depends on what Witkoff brings back. If Witkoff comes back empty-handed with absolutely nothing, Trump is going to go ballistic.
The president has been clear that there will be biting sanctions if Putin does not agree to end the war, White House Deputy Press Secretary Anna Kelly said. During the first half of the year, Ukrainian security service SBU achieved significant success in targeting and destroying Russian air defense systems. While the details of these special operations remain classified, their impact is already being felt, according to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. On August 6, Zelensky received a briefing from the head of the SBU, Vasyl Maluk. He said the meeting focused primarily on military components, special operations, and long-range actions by SBU operatives.
I'm grateful for the precision. We won't disclose the details publicly, but the enemy is already feeling the consequences of our actions.
The president highlighted the SBU's successes in eliminating Russian air defense systems in the first half of the year as particularly noteworthy.
This significantly boosts our long-range strikes on targets within Russia's military machine and war economy. I've approved several new operations. Thank you to the SBU for your strength.
Ukrainian Prime Minister Yulia Sviridenko has announced that preparations are underway for 3 joint Ukraine-US projects in mineral extraction. Their implementation is planned to begin within the next 18 months under a bilateral agreement on critical mineral resources, reported by Sviridenko on Facebook following talks with the US Secretary of the Treasury Scott Bessent. Sviridenko said that 2 sides had been discussed the establishment of a US-Ukrainian Reconstruction Investment Fund, with the first meeting of its board of directors scheduled for September.
We are working on expanding its mandate so that the fund can also invest in the defense sector. The aim is to launch the first 3 projects within 18 months.
Particular attention was paid to defense cooperation during the talks. This included a potential agreement on the production and export of Ukrainian drones initiated by President Volodymyr Zelensky and the possible procurement of US weapons.
We also raised the issue of increasing sanctions pressure and cooperation with international financial institutions.
That's all for today. Thanks for watching this video. Support Ukraine, like and subscribe.